Hey guys, it's Yarnable here, and here is my colorless blender tutorial because someone requested on Copic coloring techniques, and because there's so many Copic coloring techniques, I wanted to break it into different, sections, different, so I'm going to do a video on different types of Copic coloring techniques, and number one, and today's Copic coloring technique is using the colorless blender. Okay, so everyone says, oh, it's not an actual colorless blender, the name's misleading, la-di-da. And they're always like, oh, but you can use it to erase things. And okay, I sometimes use it to erase things, but I usually don't. And people think that the name is misleading because they don't really know how it's supposed to be used. So this is what people think is how you use the colorless blender. So let's say why don't we just take two colors out? Let's say I had R43 and, where is it? R46, okay? So this is what they think is how you'll use it. So this is what they think. So you color in an area. So this is not actually how to blend with the colorless blender. This is what people usually do. And then usually you would blend it by going over the colors, and because this is a big color jump, it's hard. And then they think you have to use the colorless blender to go over in this area here. That is not how you use the colorless blender, okay guys? That is not how you use it. So instead of using these two, I think I'm going to use these two, because those two colors were kind of different. So this is R20 and R22 I'm going to use as an example. This is how you blend with the colorless blender, and I'm using expressive cardstock. I'm not sure if that's a really good thing. So first, step number one on how to use a colorless blender. There's actually a lot of different ways to color with a colorless blender. So first, I recommend going with your dark color and wherever you need a shade. So let's say that was my shade. That's my shade color. And then you take your colorless blender and you lighten the area. Like this. And then you take your R20 and then blend. Oh man, this is really felt. See how easy that blended? Okay, so what the colorless blender does, it takes away some of the colors in your ink. And that's the main purpose of the colorless blender, so that when you blend colors, they take the dark color, lighten it up so that it's easier to blend with the lighter color. Because it would be a lot harder to blend it like this, because if I didn't use the colorless blender, I would have the color there, and then I would have to blend it just like this. Do you see how rough this is? And this, it's like a huge difference, guys. This is so blended, and this is pretty hard. I'll zoom in for you guys. Okay, it's different. And that's how you use the colorless blender, okay? It's to lighten your darker color to make it easier to blend with your lighter color. And because I did not lighten the darker shade, it did not blend with the lighter color. Another way to use your colorless blender, okay? So let's say you have an area you want to color, so you're going to fill that up. We're going to color it with the colorless blender like this. You could either go to your lighter color and go on top of it, and then go with your darker color and shade it. And then you could go over it with it again. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Or you could do the same thing on an area, and you want to press down pretty hard. Take your darker color it here, and then do it with your lighter color. You can see both techniques are pretty good with blending them. And I know it's not blended that much, but that's because these aren't like, similar colors. Like if you see them on a color chart, I'll show you guys here. So that's this one and this one. So they're pretty different. So with the colorless blender, you will be able to blend it like this. And I'm going to show you that technique that everyone uses. It's using the colorless blender to, you know, fix mistakes and stuff. So really, this is a colorless blender tutorial, but so what people use it for is, oh, la la la, I'm coloring this area, and then whoops, I ran, oops, that was actually pretty much, okay. Whoops, I went out of the line. What people do is they take the colorless blender and then they rub it on the side where they made a mistake, and then it kind of gradually goes back into the drawing like this. But then I don't like doing that. Why? Because when you put a whole bunch of ink on one area, it bleeds to the other side, even if it's a bleed-proof marker paper. Like, look at this. Do you see how it got lighter on the other edge too? It's not that I colored outside the lines. It's because I put too much pressure on the other side, and that's why it seeped through the actual coloring. So I don't like doing that to fix mistakes, because it always goes to the side. It's not that noticeable right now. It's only because R20 is a pretty light color. If you use it on like, if you use it for a darker color, for example, we will go with B26. If you do it with a darker color, it's pretty noticeable. So, whoops, I got out of the line here. Colorless blender, and then you're supposed to do it like this, and you see how it's lighting up the color? So it's doing that, but it's also doing that on the other side, and now it just created a whole blotch of color and your artwork looks sloppy. See how on the other side it also seeped through, and then it created a dark streak of color where the ink seeped. So instead of doing that, guys, why don't you try this? Get something like a gel pen or whiteout, or I also have white deleter ink. You could use this too. Just whatever. And then instead of using the colorless blender, why don't you I would rather use the Jelly Roll gel pen and go like this. Because it doesn't create any marks or anything. It's perfectly fine. See? It's gone. If you look at it really closely, you could kind of notice it, but yeah. So, colorless blender is a colorless blender. Its name is not misleading. It's just because of the people that did not understand on how to use it, guys. You could always use it as an eraser, but I do not recommend that because, as shown here, it creates a blotch thing. Use it for actual blending. Like, look how good this blended, and look how good this blended, and look how good this blended. And so, I'm going to list the techniques that I've used. Technique number 1. This technique with colorless blender is, what should I call it? Dark, and then colorless blender, I'm going to call it CB, and then light. So what this means is, at first I put a layer of dark color. I used the colorless blender to make it lighter, and then I blended it last with the light color. This is, at first I used a colorless blender to make it overall layered, and then I used a light color to make a base color, and then I used the dark color to shade, and then I used the light color again to blend it out. And in this one, I used colorless blender to do it, dark color to shade, and then light color, lightest to blend. Okay, guys, so out of these three, the one that I think looks blended is this one. I mean, it's your choice on which one you think is blended the best. There's this one, and this one. These two are okay, and this one is really blended well. And you can see the ones that I didn't use the colorless blender, like this one and this one, are really hard and unblended. Okay, I hope this helped you guys for your colorless blender. Make note that this thing isn't just a eraser. It's supposed to take away the color, guys. It's supposed to do that. Okay, guys? It's supposed to take away the colors so that you can blend it better. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.